God doesn't make anyone sick, he just occasionally gives the devil permission to afflict us, and more often than not restricts his access to us, or only permits him to tempt us but not to kill us. I'm not always in charge, and my responses, attempts to analyze and rationalize them, prove useless. I can't even explain to myself, yet alone to you, why it is precisely that I do what I do. They try to get my attention, all they get in return is silence. Some perceive my lack of noise as a gift, others associate it with violence. Break out the Saxon violins, let us play misery, cause and sympathy. Some have gone astray and are no longer with us in this fold, fraught with tension, yet tempered by Omega's wisdom, keeping the Temperer away from laying claws on his adopted children. Do you view virtue in me or a villain? If I get too close to the fire, I'm gonna cop a grillin'. I won't be calling you a fiend if you go round spilling the beans, 'cause I do the same thing too, staring at the screen, hardly believing the story it's telling me, that I'm unable to connect with you. I wish the story wasn't true. I swear I'm not taking, though I'm not faking, though I am a fan of acting. I promise not to flick and bounce on you. I tried to fast forward, speeding too quickly from buddy to boo stage, even though I'm yet to prove my mettle as a provider, relying on a generous government stipend plus Jehovah Jireh. Why do people use words of hate to describe their pets? Are they using them as outlets for others who cause them to fret? I always used to struggle, shooting myself in the foot, so to speak, instead of slam dunking or bouncing my spalding off the rim, watching it drop straight for the net. My dreams replay in a continual loop. I can dribble like a pro, but I hardly get it in the hoop. You have to stoop low to get in some churches, 'cause they design the archway to steer your thoughts towards humbleness. I don't jeer when folks scoop awards, though if they give props to Elohim, much louder will be my punch, proud cheers of applause. I'm remorseful and regretful, trampling onwards through foreboding moors. My mood fits downpours, would I switch up on you, nor how can I ignore the possibility of love when I see a shorty with potential? I should have read the signals right. I'd be content to be in the bro zone rather than going nowhere in a hurry like a dog chasing parked cars. She blocked me out her life like a sun visor, preventing the scorching solar torch from penetrating her view, a gap in the ozone layer. She lays under it all day, and the change is stunning, morphing her from raven-locked damsel to bleach blonde bunny. I get why she's running, 'cause I'm acting kind of funny. Give me an inch, I'd take a mile. My mouth was like a dunny can, but I'm fleeing from the vileness of the way I am right now. El Shaddai filed the bars of my prison cell and broke me out. I realized bitter attitudes and vindictiveness weren't gonna win her over or convince her of her wrongdoing, just make it more difficult for me to link up with a heart sitting pretty in a body vessel like hers in the town or perhaps the city. I'm admitting I'm hesitant to open my gob and risk getting hurt again, but it's totally worth it. Stupidity is refusing to learn from the mistakes of the past. When I get my rocket shot down and burnt by flames of disgust or terror shooting out her eyes, I simply put it down to experience and aim never to repeat it. Was I too considered in my approach? I didn't anticipate her cascading like a domino. The world seems to come crashing down on me like the waves of an angry sea, when suddenly, without warning, she makes like a tree and leaves. Why am I grieving? I barely know her. She gave me one dope pointer and enabled me to score a free collection of poetry, so I'm glad I showed up. I'm only sorry if my words or deeds caused her to throw up. I'm afraid I've got Peter Pan complex, never gonna grow up. This isn't what Christ meant when he said we couldn't get into heaven unless faith like kids is what we possess. I'm sure he'd agree with Paul that we should crave the meat of his wisdom and not just the milk, fixing to be mature, exploring complex concepts like the hierarchical structure of the Trinity, not just simple and basic ones like the fact God's Son's love for us is a never-changing fact, not a never-shifting state of being dependent on our obedience. In following his law, we maintain a heavenly citizenship. When you hang off cliffs, fear not, he's holding on to you. We are shaped and moulded by his hands into bright, beaming beacons of irrefutable truth, defying logic and the need for empirical proof. His resurrected torso testifies to his deity. His pricking of my conscience keeps me coof. His splendor spouting sacred conduit. Peace.